If your business grew fast, your culture probably didn't. Not because your values disappeared and not because your people changed, but because the way work used to hold together stopped working, and it did it quietly. Everything feels harder than it should. Hi, I'm Sharon, the Culture Catalyst, and welcome back to Culture Shift in Action 2026 edition. This is a series where I help business leaders like you spot the gaps, make the shift, and build a thriving culture in less than 10 minutes. Fast growth is celebrated, it's a great success, but it can also be when your culture starts to drift. When you're small, just a startup, culture lives in these things: the proximity, the founder presence. You're there every day, making sure everything's running right. Shared context and shared challenge, and the ability to make quick decisions. But as you scale, you add layers, you hire managers, you create a bit of distance between you and the rest of your team. And the old way that you used to do things stops carrying as much meaning. As a leader, you'll probably think, well, we're growing, this is normal. But your employees might be thinking, something's off and I can't quite name what it is. That is the gap where disengagement, inconsistency, and quiet frustration are born. I've got 3 activities that I want you to do to help stop culture drift if you're a growing business. The first one is to close the informal to formal gap. Here's what you need to understand. Growth itself in a business doesn't break culture. It just exposes what was never formalized. You need to ask yourself, what decisions lived in my head? What behaviors were modeled before but never named properly? What expectations did you have that were implied and never needed to be explained? When a business grows, that kind of informal clarity that you used to have unfortunately expires. If you don't replace it with an intentional clarity, your people will fill the gaps themselves, and that's when culture will fragment. The second activity I've got for you is to monitor the culture drift signals. Culture drift rarely shows up as conflict. It shows up as managers interpreting your strategy differently, decisions slowing things down, leaders constantly repeating themselves, and teams who are sat waiting for permission. And as a leader, you might fall into the trap of mislabeling these as things like engagement problems or capability issues, or maybe even just a shift in people's attitude. That's not right, because these things are signals, they are symptoms, they are not the cause. The cause is usually this: people no longer know how decisions are made when the pressure hits. And if you've grown and grown quickly, there will be times of pressure. The third activity is an alignment reset. If you want to stabilize your culture after a period of growth, then you need to do an alignment reset and do it deliberately. That means getting really explicit about what matters now. What has changed since we were that smaller, startup, much leaner business? And what does good judgment look like in our business today? And this isn't about conducting a values workshop. This is about getting absolute operational clarity. Alignment will answer these 3 important questions for your team. Number 1, what decisions can I make without having to check? Number 2, what behaviours are expected of me when I'm under pressure? Number 3, what matters most, even when things clash? If your people can't answer these questions, then your culture is likely to continue to drift. I've had 25 years experience supporting leaders to ground their culture and build thriving teams. And as usual, I've got some watch outs. Here are the things you should not be doing. This is what can make culture drift worse. Don't assume that your people should just know. That's not the case anymore. You're a bigger business. You need to be crystal clear. Don't blame your middle management for inconsistency. You have to set the standards. You have to make sure that communication with them is consistent and they know what to expect. And please don't show random engagement initiatives a clarity problem. Make sure you've got your clarity first before you start to think, we need a new ping pong table in the office. With growth often comes complexity, and pretending it doesn't is what will erode the trust within your business. Culture doesn't fix itself after scale and after a period of growth. It needs leadership attention, not just leadership enthusiasm. Growth won't destroy your culture, but silence and avoiding things will. So if your business grew and it now feels harder to run, you don't have a people problem, you have a culture lag. The work you've got to do is not to motivate harder, it's to replace informal clarity with intentional alignment. It's to name those expectations that you used to think were implied. And it's to reinforce behaviour where the work actually happens. Your business has scaled, but your culture will not scale just by accident. It'll scale when you slow down long enough to make it explicit again. If this hits home, there'll be a link in the description, or you can DM the word shift and I'll send you my culture drift diagnostic tool. It's from my Culture Shift Blueprint. It'll show you exactly where growth has outpaced alignment. Remember, culture shift needs thinking shift. I'll see you next time.